So today I want to talk about something almost nobody is discussing. Everyone is obsessed with the war between America and Iran, who's winning. Whether America will bomb Iran into submission, if Iran will close the Strait of Hormuz and crash the global economy, or whether ground troops will be deployed. Important questions, and we've covered them in previous classes. But today I'm asking something completely different. While America and Iran are fighting and bleeding each other, who is actually winning? I know what some of you are thinking. Professor Jen, China isn't even in this war. How can China be winning a war it's not fighting? That is exactly the right question, because the most brilliant strategic move in geopolitics is not to fight at all. The real genius is letting your enemies destroy each other while you quietly build your power. And that's precisely what China is doing right now. Let me walk you through this carefully. First, what China gains if America wins. Second, what China gains if Iran wins. And finally, the deeper historical pattern at play, because this isn't the first time a rising power has watched two great forces exhaust each other and then walked in to collect the prize. First, understand how China thinks about strategy. It's very different from America. America uses what I call the hammer strategy. Problem? Hit it hard, hit it fast, hit it with maximum force. That's why America reaches for bombs first, why the military-industrial complex is so powerful. China's strategy comes from the Art of War, written by Sun Tzu about 2,500 years ago. The most important lesson? The greatest victory is to win without fighting. You don't waste energy, soldiers, or money on direct confrontation. You position yourself correctly, let the situation develop, and when the moment is right, you move. By then the outcome is already decided. China's applying this perfectly to the Iran war. Scenario 1. America wins. America bombs Iran. The government collapses. A friendly regime is installed. America controls Iran's oil and the Strait of Hormuz. Does China lose? No. Here's why. Even if America wins, it will have spent trillions of dollars. The Iraq War cost $2 trillion and America didn't even win that. Iran is a much larger, stronger, more prepared enemy. America's national debt is already over $306 trillion, with a massive yearly deficit. Every bomb is paid for with borrowed money. And who is America borrowing from? China holds over $1 trillion in U.S. Treasury bonds. The more America spends on war, the weaker its financial system becomes. The F-35 cost $400 million each and took 26 years to develop. The Ford-class carrier cost $13 billion and had to retreat from the Persian Gulf in 3 weeks. Patriot missile systems cost billions, yet cheap Iranian drones fly right past them. China watches patiently, spending 0 yuan and losing 0 soldiers, while America emerges financially weaker, and a weaker America is a gift to China. Scenario 2. Iran wins, or more precisely, America fails and is forced to retreat from the Middle East. This scenario is actually far better for China. If America retreats, the entire architecture of American global power begins to crumble, starting with the petrodollar system. Since 1973, all oil has been traded in US dollars. That was a deal between America and Saudi Arabia. Saudis sell oil only in dollars, and America protects the Saudi regime. Every country needs oil, so every country must hold dollars, creating permanent global demand for the dollar. That's why America can print money and run huge deficits without destroying its currency. Without the petrodollar, the dollar loses its status as the world's reserve currency. And without that, America cannot finance its military empire. Iran has effectively closed the Strait of Hormuz, which carries 20% of the world's oil, 75% of Japan's oil, 60% of China's oil, and most of South Korea, India, and Pakistan's oil. The entire Asian economy depends on that tiny waterway. Iran is now demonstrating to the world that it, not America, controls it. Every day that continues, the petrodollar's credibility is damaged because the petrodollar is based on a promise. America keeps the oil flowing. If it can't, why trust the dollar? That directly benefits China, which has been building an alternative for years. The petro-yuan. China has been negotiating with oil producers like Saudi Arabia, Russia, and Iran to sell oil in yuan instead of dollars. If the petrodollar collapses, countries will shift to yuan-based trade, an enormous transfer of global financial power from America to China. Again, without China firing a single shot, but it goes deeper. China has been building the Belt and Road Initiative for over a decade, the most ambitious infrastructure project in human history. Roads, railways, ports, pipelines connecting China to Europe, Africa, the Middle East, and Central Asia. At the center of this is Iran, the geographical pivot of the entire initiative. For China to connect to Europe by land or access the Persian Gulf by sea, it must go through Iran. That's why China signed a 25-year comprehensive strategic partnership with Iran in 2021, agreeing to invest $400 billion in exchange for discounted oil. Every bomb America drops on Iran is also a bomb dropped on China's $400 billion investment. That's why China is quietly supporting Iran not militarily, but economically. Despite American sanctions, Chinese ships continue buying Iranian oil through intermediaries. Different ships, different payment methods. Before this war, Iran could barely export oil, but the war forced America to unofficially unsanction Iranian oil to keep global prices from spiking. China immediately started buying more. Iran is now making billions more per month from oil exports, much of which goes directly to China for goods and technology. America went to war to weaken Iran, but the result is Iran more deeply embedded in China's economic system than ever before, a strategic catastrophe for America and a windfall for China. Now think about what this war is doing to global trust in America. Countries around the world are learning that America will go to war on thin justifications, bomb civilian infrastructure, power plants, water facilities, hospitals for regime change, and that American promises of protection are worthless if you're not strategically important. Every developing country in Africa, Southeast Asia, Latin America, Central Asia is asking, are we safe if America decides our government is unacceptable? Will we be bombed? Can America protect us? Or is that protection an illusion? That fear drives countries directly into China's arms because China offers something different. We will build your roads, ports, railways, buy your resources, and we will not bomb you, sanction you, or demand you change your government. We will respect your sovereignty. Yes, China has its own interests and problems, but from a small country's perspective, China looks far better than a nation bombing a country of 90 million people live on television. Every day this war continues, more countries quietly move toward China settling trade in yuan, signing up for the Belt and Road, joining Chinese-led institutions like the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and BRI, which has expanded to include Iran, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Egypt, Ethiopia, and most of the global south. Now let me bring in history because it rhymes loudly. The Peloponnesian War, 4141 BCE, between Athens and Sparta lasted 27 years. Both spent enormous resources and suffered massive casualties. Athens was destroyed. Who won? Macedonic kingdom to the north that everyone looked down on. Philip of Macedon watched Athens and Sparta exhaust each other, quietly built his power, modernized his army, built his economy, and when both were weakened, he moved in. Within a generation, his son Alexander the Great conquered the entire Greek world and beyond. America is Athens, Iran is Sparta, and China is Macedon watching, building, waiting. Another example, World War I, Britain and Germany destroyed each other. Britain won but came out deeply in debt, its economy weakened, its empire cracking. Germany was crushed. The great beneficiary? America, which entered late, avoided the worst casualties and emerged as the world's leading creditor nation. Within 30 years, America replaced Britain as the dominant global power. China is following exactly the same playbook. So what is China doing while America bombs Iran? China is building. It just completed its 15th five-year plan, 2 years of consultation with experts, think tanks, academics across the country. A comprehensive, serious plan for technology, manufacturing, infrastructure, energy, education. What does America have? No plan. The U.S. government has no 5-year plan, no 1-year plan, no 1-month plan. Everything in Washington is improvised. The decision to bomb Iran was made by a handful of people with no plan beyond the initial strikes. When Iran didn't surrender, there was no plan B. One country plans decades ahead. The other can't plan 2 hours ahead. Meanwhile, China is buying resources across the global south. It's the largest trading partner of most African, Southeast Asian, and Latin American countries. While America spent $2 trillion in Iraq and Afghanistan, China built ports in Pakistan, railways in Kenya, power plants in Ethiopia, roads in Central Asia. China made friends. America made enemies. And oil? China is the world's largest importer. Iran needs to sell oil to survive. But sanctions make it hard to sell to Western countries. So Iran sells to China at below market prices. Cheap oil means lower manufacturing costs, which means Chinese goods are more competitive globally even as American tariffs and trade wars disrupt supply chains. The Iran war is paradoxically making Chinese manufacturing more competitive. While American businesses struggle with higher energy costs and supply chain disruptions, Chinese manufacturers get cheaper oil. That's not an accident, it's structural. And technology. America cut off China from semiconductor technology, hoping to cripple its tech industry. China responded by massively investing in its own chip factories, training its own engineers, building its own ecosystem. And while China does that, the world's best engineers and scientists see America becoming more unstable, unpredictable, and aggressive. They're thinking twice about building their careers there. The brain drain that America once used as a weapon attracting global talent is beginning to reverse. Who wants to live in a country engaged in expensive, unpopular wars with a dysfunctional political system, no plan, growing inequality, and a dying American dream? China and other rising powers are the quiet, slow beneficiaries of this talent migration. We are living through a transition from a unipolar world dominated by one power, America, to a multipolar world, with several major powers competing and cooperating. This transition mirrors the end of the British Empire in the early 20th century. In this transition, China is positioning itself as the leading alternative to American dominance, not by fighting America or challenging it militarily, but by demonstrating a better deal, better trade terms, better infrastructure investment, better respect for sovereignty, and better long-term thinking. That is how you win without fighting. And that is what winning actually looks like. So today,